Hi and welcome to the Resources Roadhouse. I'm Wally Graham and today I'm joined by Wayne Rossiter, who's Managing Director and CEO of recently listed Eastern Metals. And when I say recently listed, Wayne, I mean recently listed. So you listed on the back of a portfolio of projects that float down from the Northern Territory down through New South Wales. What are the projects? What are you chasing at each one, and how are they all situated?
No, you're dead right, Wally. We just listed on Monday, so it's our first week of trading. It's been well received by the market, which is great, and I think there's some good reasons for that. But our asset portfolio, we have three project areas: what we call the Arunta project in the Northern Territory, the Cobar project in New South Wales, and the Thompson project, which is also in New South Wales. But the first two we acquired from Wesfarmers, and they were projects that Wesfarmers picked up when they took over Kidman through a scheme of arrangement. In the Northern Territory, it's a thing called Barrow Creek, and the principal project there is the Homer Bullion mine. And it's an old copper mine. It was mined back in the 50s, high-grade VMS system, and there's a resource on it. It's 2.5 million tonnes at 2.8% copper equivalent. So it's got the grade, just doesn't have the tonnage at the moment, but the actual resource is open, and there's numerous EM and structural targets in the area, which is not unusual for a VMS system. And within the same project area to the north, we have another project called Prospect D. It's had a little bit of drilling done on it, and it's returned in a high-grade core, very significant copper, high-grade, in fact, copper and nickel assays, which is really interesting, but it's early days. There's a lot of work to be done on that. And the whole area is in what's called the Barrow Creek pegmatite field. So it's prospective for lithium. There's been no substantive work done on that. Wesfarmers have prepared a soil sampling program across the tenement, which was never executed. And that's on our list of things to do as well. So up in the Northern Territory, I guess of the four critical battery minerals that are emerging, we have three of them. We're only missing cobalt at this point of time. So it's a really interesting project, and we'll be starting our exploration program up there. Well, initially there'll be some reconnaissance work done because it's getting pretty hot up there right now, checking bores and preparing the drill sites. And the drilling, there's a 9-hole program that will probably happen in February now at Homer Bullion. And that's specifically to expand the resource space where the existing lenses are open. So, exciting days up there. The other flagship project also came from Wesfarmers, and it's the Browns Reef project in New South Wales near Lake Cargelligo. So it's in the southern Cobar Basin, and the Cobar Basin is a prolific minerals province. There's been mines running there for the last couple hundred years. So very famous mines. So Browns Reef at this stage is predominantly a zinc, lead silver system. It's interpreted to be a syncline. It's about 8 kilometres long, so it's a big mineralised structure. There's been quite a lot of drilling done on the central eastern flank of that syncline by Kidman, and what they've put together was a exploration target. It was very close to JORC, but inferred resource, but it's an exploration target, a JORC exploration target of 27 to 37 million tonnes, but at relatively low grade. But within that envelope where they drilled, there was some very high grade and all width hits that had never been stepped out from and followed up on. So that's our target. So what we'll be doing out there, our initial program will be to test a number of those high grade hits. And when I say test, I mean simply just to step out on them. And we've been going through all the core photos in detail, and what we're seeing there is breccias and hydrothermal alteration adjacent to massive sulfides. It's really interesting. There's great potential to find within that system one or more ore bodies. And we like to compare ourselves to Peel Mining, which are active in the Southern Cobar Basin as well. They have a number of resources at this stage. We're not quite at that resource stage yet, other than Homer Bullion. And they've got a market cap of around $100 million. And we're targeting through our initial exploration programs to get ourselves along that pathway to become a Peel equivalent fairly soon in terms of our resource base. The third project is the Thompson Project, and it's just north of the Cobar Basin. It's in what's called the Thompson Fold Belt, so it's a sedimentary area. There's what we got out there is big land holding, and we have numerous what we'll describe as weak magnetic bullseye targets. And what's attracted us to these targets is they're absolute parallels of what led to the discovery of the famous CSA and Allura mines in the Cobar Basin. So there has been drilling done out there in the past by previous explorers, Platt Search and Minotaur, and the consensus view on all the explorers and in fact the department is that those drill holes missed the targets, but rather hit the halo of the targets. And so we're seeing the sort of mineral assemblages you'd expect around a potential ore body, but those assemblages don't explain the magnetic feature that's in place. The other consensus view is that the basement in that area is in fact the Cobar Basin. So all the building blocks are there for something that's quite interesting. So we view that as a higher risk but very high reward project.
It's well, that's
You
quite
got no
concise.
questions now, Wally. I've told you everything.
We're open for questions now. They're quite a concise delivery of the projects and what's there at the moment. When you were speaking, I was just sort of thinking, like, as a newly listed explorer, you've got quite a fair bit to go out there and explore. Basically, it's not as if you don't expect an exploration company to come on and we're ready to start developing our mine, but you do have a lot of ground out there that is highly prospective for some good old-fashioned exploration.
Well, it's just unreal. The flagship assets, Kidman spent over $9 million on those, and we've got this incredible database to work off. So we don't need to go out there on a greenfields project and drill the crap out of it, to use a colloquialism. Our holes are very targeted with a very definitive purpose in adding to that database. And so it's a huge advantage for us, having those high grade hits within a mineral system at Browns Reef to follow up on, is a pretty simple program really. And resource extension program at Homer Bullion is a simple program. The only one which is higher risk is the Thompson Project. And indeed, our IPO funds, we raised $6 million. We don't have funds allocated to drilling there. We'll be seeking funding partners to assist us on that. So our focus is very much on the flagship assets and building that resource base as quickly as possible. And it's really interesting. And take Browns Reef as an example here. Its strike length's 8 kilometres. There's potential stacking of mineralized zones at either end of this syncline. Imagine the hull of a ship, and but even in the flanks, we're seeing those all-grade, all-width hits. And the sort of ore body we're targeting, the strike length of that might only be 200-300 meters long. So having those high-grade hits to build off is exactly the way to go. And even now, just examining the geological database, we're identifying I think new information around the mineralization and how it's formed and how we can best target future holes as well. So really interesting and early days for us.
Well, we'll sit and wait for the news to come through so we can bring it to everybody here at the Roadhouse. But until that starts flowing through, we'll definitely be catching up again with you, I'd say, Wayne. So Wayne Rossiter, thanks very much for joining us here at the Resources Roadhouse.
Thanks very much, Wally. I appreciate your time.